Welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast that goes beyond the curriculum and test scores to explore the real stories, challenges, and victories of the people shaping education and our communities. Because let's be honest, teaching, parenting, and leading, and simply living in this world requires more than lesson plans. It requires balance and reflection, and sometimes a deep breath. Today's yoga conversation is about something that many people think is just exercise yoga. But our guest today reminds us that yoga is so much more than poses on a mat. It's about how we move through stress, how we speak to ourselves, how we respond to chaos of everyday life. Joining us today is Chanda Floyd-Bryant, a certified yoga instructor and meditation coach who focuses on empowering individuals to achieve wellness and healing through trauma-informed mindfulness practices. Through her work, Chanda helps people slow down, reconnect with themselves, and find peace in a world that often moves way too fast. Because the real question is this: what if yoga doesn't start on the mat, but in the way we live our lives every day? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the show, Shonda. How are you?
I am doing well, Francesca. I am so incredibly grateful for this opportunity. I really appreciate you for having me.
Yes, you are the first episode for season 11. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, my
and I
pleasure.
think it's and I think it's an important topic, especially with the season that we're in and education. This is the end of the year. There is a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stress happening in the schools,
Indeed.
grades, testing, all the things you got to get submitted. So this is going to be a great conversation. Shonda, please tell our audience, who are you?
Well, thank you for this moment in this time. I am Chanda Floyd-Bryant, and I am a trauma-informed certified yoga teacher at 200 hours. I am
Mm,
also a meditation coach. I am a mindfulness coach and practitioner, and I am also a community resiliency model facilitator. So that's a lot of stuff. I'm sure we're going to unpack it in a little bit. But in a nutshell, that is who I am. I'm a mom, I'm a wife,
yes.
yeah, caregiver, all the
All
things.
the things.
Yes.
Well, you are the expert today, and so I want to talk to you about what yoga really means. So when I think about when people hear the word yoga, they picture stretching, maybe a peaceful room, maybe some incense, but yoga is deeper than that. When you
Mhm.
say yoga outside the mat, what does
Mhm.
that actually mean?
So, and I know we're really talking to caregivers or even educators or vice versa, women, men, whomever's tuning in. And so, yoga isn't just about the pose, right? Yoga
Mhm.
it's not even about perfection, particularly when we think about trauma-informed yoga, because there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
It's really about presence. It's about
Mm,
being present, being in that space, mind, body, and energy. And some people, like, you hear that word presence and it's like, oh yeah, I can be present. But it really takes a skill set, right? It really takes an intention of being present. So it's about learning to breathe when the world is asking for too much, right? It's about listening to your body when you've been taught to override it. It's about choosing rest without guilt.
mhm.
So,
I
yoga
love that.
outside the mat is how we practice compassion when we're tired. It's
I
how
love
we
it.
hold boundaries without apology. It's how we come to ourselves breath by breath, moment by moment.
I love it. It's giving yourself permission to slow down,
Yes,
right? And so,
absolutely.
so let's talk about mindfulness. We hear the word everywhere now, but what does mindfulness actually look like in real life? Not on a yoga retreat, but on a Tuesday morning when you're running late and you got 50 emails in your inbox. So what does mindfulness look like?
Well, again, for a lot of people, especially our educators and caregivers and women and men and whomever, mindfulness can feel like more than like something else extra to do, right? One more thing to get right, more thing to feel guilty about and not doing. But mindfulness, it isn't about perfection. Again, it is really about presence, right?
Mhm.
And presence doesn't require silence or stillness. It requires noticing, right?
Yeah.
I think when we think about no when we think about mindfulness, it's really having the ability to be present, but also to notice those things and noticing externally and noticing internally. I think that's the part that really like gets me fired up about this work, is like really allowing yourself to be present and to go inward, even if you've ran that stop sign, or if you're trying to
Yep.
respond to a parent's email, like really taking the time to notice what you are experiencing internally, and giving yourself permission to go deeper in that moment, and to give yourself grace and space to just take a
Yes.
breath, to take a pause. And so I would say mindfulness is a combination of being present, but it is
Mhm.
also noticing at the same time.
Yes, and I love that word pause that you said because that's huge. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we do is pause,
Yeah,
right? And I
yeah,
think that's very important in the world that we live in. We're so busy, we're so connected to every single thing. So that
yes,
sometimes it's important to disconnect. I
yes.
did about maybe a month ago, I did a Sunday of no technology.
Yay, good for
And
you. How'd that feel?
girlfriend, I did not miss it. I was outside. I was reading a book. I was just enjoying my time. And then it was the end of the day. And I said, oh my God, really? And
Yeah,
so it's one of those things that we can let go.
you
We're just
can.
so addicted to it that it's like, oh man, let me keep going. Let me keep going. But
Yeah.
you know what? Let go.
Yeah,
Pause.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to share too that, when we think about mindfulness, because mindfulness can be incorporated in every aspect of our lives, in our profession, at home, with our friends, with our family, in your
Yeah.
community. Mindfulness is everywhere. You can eat mindful, you can walk mindful, you can
Mhm.
listen mindfully. So, and mindfulness is really important because it helps us to reduce our stress and our anxiety
Yeah.
and our emotional reactivity sometimes, right? And so
Right.
I want folks that are listening, that are tuning in, to really, really think about that word mindfulness and how it resonates with you, and how you can show up in a space, whether you're at work, at home, in the classroom, at school, really show up in a way where you're being mindful on so many different levels.
I love it. So now let's talk about self-love because that word gets thrown around a lot, but for
Mhm,
many people, especially educators and caregivers and women, self-love feels impossible. We're
mhm,
taught to give, right? We're taught
mhm,
to sacrifice, to keep going, keep going, keep going. But
mhm.
what does self look like? What does self-love look like through the lens of yoga?
Yeah, I love that. And
Mhm.
that was one of the things that really drew me into this practice of yoga, is just really focusing on myself and going inward to give myself the love, the care, and the attention that I need. And so through a trauma-informed yoga lens, self-love, I know you asked me what is self-love, but I want to talk about a little bit about what it isn't. Like, self-love isn't about indulgence. It's
Mm.
about non-harm, ahimsa,
Yeah.
the first principle of yoga. And non-harm begins with who? Ourselves. It begins with
Yes.
you. Self-love is nervous system care. Self-love is boundaries. Self-love is self-empathy. Self-love is choosing rest without
Yes.
guilt. Self-love is listening to your body.
Mm-hmm.
Self-love isn't always pretty, right? And so when I think about this practice of yoga and mindfulness, like you can see how beautifully all of these pieces connect to mindfulness and yoga and self-love, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about choosing rest without guilt, a 2021 study found that mindful rest improves cognitive performance and emotional regulation, even in 5-minute increments, right? Rest is
Wow.
not a reward, it's regulation.
I love that. That hits deep because you know why? Teachers spend their lives pouring into everyone else and they don't get that rest. They're
Mm-hmm.
pouring into their students, they're pouring into their families, they're pouring into their communities. And that
Hmm.
goes back to that pause that we talked about earlier. Who is pouring into them? And so
Yes,
that's why this conversation is very important.
yes,
Um, and yoga is healing, you
yes,
know?
it is.
So you work with people using trauma informed yoga and meditation. Tell me a little more about that and why is this so important?
This is like when we look around in the world in which we live in currently, it
Yeah.
is like stress is like through the roof. It's almost like an epidemic now, right? Everybody is dealing with some level of stress. And when there is stress, our nervous systems are overwhelmed. And when I think about a practice that I put together, I'm coining it as Zen Flow. It was
Mhm.
created for this exact moment. We're living
Yeah.
in a time where stress isn't occasional, like I said, it's chronic, right? And
Mhm.
so when we think about healing, particularly from a trauma-informed lens,
Yeah.
I have been practicing and offering Zen Flow to communities, right? And so what is Zen Flow? Zen Flow is a trauma-informed healing experience that blends four evidence-based modalities. Yoga, which is gentle choice-based movement. And the one thing I
Mhm.
want to share about trauma-informed yoga is that you're giving choice. You
Yeah.
have a choice to either move based on what your body is telling you or not, right? So it's not about
Yeah.
performance and it's not about flexibility, but yoga in Zen flow focuses on grounding and breath-led movement and interoception, which is feeling what's happening inside your body and actually honoring your edges, right? Why that matters. We know that Bessel van der Kolk's research in the body keeps the score shows
Mhm.
that trauma lives in the body in breath patterns, muscle tension, posture, and protective responses. Gentle yoga helps people reconnect with their bodies safely. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so when we think about, yoga, using yoga as a healing modality, like it's so incredibly powerful. It's so incredibly
Mhm.
powerful to be able to come into a space where you have choice, but you also have the opportunity to really go inward and to really listen and to notice what your body is telling you and to give your body exactly what it's asking for. Those
Yeah.
are the things that really bring about healing and being able to balance our nervous system.
I love that. So this is a question because you got a lot of people who are listening, including myself, who've never even done a yoga session. Now I've done a yoga session, but I am far from even being somebody great. If I was to start today, what would you suggest I do? Should I go read about it, learn about it, watch some videos, take a class? What would you suggest?
I would just say jump right in. I mean, we all
Okay.
have access to YouTube, or even better yet, I'm offering a Zen Flow session, right? I'm offering a
Yes.
Zen Flow session. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'm offering a session called Zen Flow every Wednesday at 7 o'clock for 1 hour. And so you
Okay.
don't have to come with this perfect pose. You don't even have to come with any experience. I would just say jump right in and just see what happens. And you'll be surprised about how the body responds when it's being
Yes.
poured into and cared for, right? So I would
You're
just
right.
say jump right in wherever it feels most comfortable for you, and know that you do not have to show up as this yogi or
I
like
know.
like you're doing all these perfect poses. Yeah, I would just say just show up, just jump right in and see
And
what
do it.
happens. And I guarantee you when you start it, your body is going to be like, "Hey,
Hey.
I need more of that," right?
Yes. So where's your class at?
So it's virtual.
Oh, it's
It is
virtual.
virtual.
Okay, make sure I have that link to put in the show notes,
Hmm.
so that I can give that to our listeners. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
It's called Centered and Supported, a mindful experience for caregivers and caregivers of any type. I'm a caregiver. I'm a grandparent raising my grandchild. And so I know that it's hard work sometimes, but to be able to have a space where you can ground and breathe and be in community with others, it is just something that it's very powerful to be in a space where, you're able to hold space for each other, but
Yeah,
also being able to pour back into yourselves, because you're saying it always says what you cannot pour from an empty cup.
empty
And
cup.
so for
Mhm.
1 hour, 1 day a week, this is an opportunity for you to pour into yourselves, but also to be in community with others.
I love that. Yeah. You know what? Because the truth is this. You don't need a yoga studio to start healing. Look, we can do this virtual with Miss Shonda, okay?
Absolutely.
You just need awareness, you just need permission to pause, and
Yep.
sometimes you just need one breath.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you know what? We're going to end the show with something new for everything but the lesson plan. We are going to do some rapid fire questions. So,
Okay.
for my audience, I know
Okay.
y'all, we haven't done this before, but these are questions with Shonda, with her quick thinking, giving us an answer of what she would do for this question. So hopefully these tips will help you get you started in your yoga and mindfulness journey. So you
Yeah.
ready, Shonda?
I'm ready.
I'm
I'm
putting you
ready.
in the hot seat,
I'm
okay?
ready. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Bring it on. Bring it
All
on.
right. Okay, question number one.
Yes.
What one mindful practice everyone can start today, no yoga mat required?
So I would have to say grounding, like literally placing
Mm,
your feet on the ground, feeling your connection to Mother Earth, imagining that you have roots extending from your feet, and allowing the body to ground and to reset and to center.
I love that. Yes, I'm gonna do that tonight. Okay, grounding. All right, next question. When life feels overwhelming, what is your go-to grounding technique?
Take a breath. The breath is the
Mm,
most powerful tool that we have, but it is often underutilized. So
you
just
right about that.
yes, because you know what? Some of us are walking around and we're not breathing. I'm just saying.
Mm-mm. And your shoulders be tight and
There
up
you
high.
go. Yep,
And
exactly.
you be like, loosen up your shoulders
Just
a little
loosen
bit,
up, yeah,
sis. Breathe a little bit.
and breathe. And then connect that breathing to the grounding. You got a whole practice
Yes.
here.
Oh my God. Okay. So, and my last question is, what does self-love truly look like in everyday life?
I would have to say that one word that starts with a G, and that's grace.
Oh wow.
Like,
I
yeah,
love that.
giving ourselves the grace that we always extend to others, but very seldom give to ourselves.
I
Grace.
love that. Well, honey, you get an A plus with your rapid fire questions. You did it.
This was so much fun.
Thank you. Any last words before we close this out?
No, I would just say to your listeners, is to always be kind
Yeah.
to yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Give yourself the grace and space that you always give to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know you cannot pour from an empty cup.
You
So
cannot.
continue to be well on purpose, and I'm
I love
sending
it.
so much love and so much light to each of you.
I
Thank
love
you,
it. This is
Francesca, for this beautiful moment.
yes.
I appreciate you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. And I'm glad we are kicking off season 11 with this episode first. This is how we starting, okay? I love it.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Chanda Floyd-Bryant, for joining us and reminding us that yoga isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And thank you to all of my listeners around the world. Remember, your work matters, your story matters, and most importantly, you matter. And until next time, keep thriving beyond the lesson plan.